Hello, my friends all over the world. My name is Uche Onyebadi, and the forum is Cross-Cultural Experience. For those of you who are joining for the very first time, this is a forum where I talk to my guest who would have left his or her culture of origin, traveled to some other place, has some experience, and then is back. And we're very, very willing to share that experience. But more importantly, what did the person learn from that experience? That is the crucial point here. And so today I have a young man. I will rather wait for him to briefly introduce himself, and then we can go ahead. Hey, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am doing great. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Awesome. My name is Ranen GNANARAJ, um, and I am 25 years old, and I'm an audio engineer.
Okay, that's good. Audio engineer, how is the world of audio engineering? Some of us don't know what it means.
So basically, as an audio engineer, what I work with practically anything that has to do with audio. Um, I do, you know, I can do anything from corporate events to concerts, theater, and also studio and music work as well. But primarily, I've been doing more of like concert settings as well as studio settings as well.
So if we have an audio issue here, I'm in good hands. Is that
Absolutely. Yep. Yes, sir.
all right? Okay, let's start sharing your experience. But before we do that, let me invite people, anybody who wants to be part of this program. It is called Cross-Cultural Experience. All you need to do is to email me, crossculturalexperiences@gmail.com, crossculturalexperiences@gmail.com, and then we can start talking from there. All right. Let us share your experience. Where do you mind starting with your nationality? Whatever
So,
you want.
yeah.
Right.
So I'm an American citizen. However, um, by race or by ethnicity, I am Indian, but my family is originally from Singapore. So many different cultures
Right. You are the
in
kind of
one.
person I like for this program. American, Indian, from Singapore. And by the way, Singapore, I so much like Singapore. When I was there, very, very clean city. People are very, very polite. And I just like the culture, how the Malays, the Chinese, the Indians, and so on, how they just mix up. Anyway,
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's a very multi racial country. Growing growing up, I grew up both in America and in Singapore.
okay.
Um, because my dad was in the Air Force. So every 2 years, I would move back and forth from Singapore and America. And yeah, growing up, I grew up with Malay neighbors and Chinese neighbors and Indian neighbors. So I
Hmm.
grew up very, very multicultural, learning how to eat the food, learning to understand a little bit of the language as well. And yeah, I was very fortunate to have that kind of open and multicultural upbringing.
Talking about food,
Yes,
any ideas? Because everybody likes food. Who doesn't?
yes, yes, yes.
What kind of food if I were to go to Singapore today, what kind of food would I get?
Okay, so in Singapore, because there's a lot of mixing of different cultures,
Right.
um, so like obviously there's Indian food, there's Malay food, there's Chinese food, and then there's American food or fast food, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I would recommend um go if anyone ever gets the chance to go to Singapore to get this dish called nasi lemak.
Uh,
Um,
Say it again.
Nasi lemak, which is
Okay.
basically it's a Malay dish, which is nasi means rice, and then I forgot what lemak means, maybe fish. No. something. But
Yeah,
basically,
it's food. It means food.
it's like coconut rice and
Oh,
some nuts and some anchovies, fried anchovies, and some
mm,
chili. Um, and yeah, it's a very simple dish, but most of us eat it for breakfast. Another very popular dish is called prata, which is Indian.
okay.
And that's basically just they take flour and they spin it around, they do a bunch of different things to it, and then they fry it, and then they either give you curry or something, another kind of sauce to eat with it, and we usually have that for breakfast. Um, and so yeah, those are my two favorite dishes whenever I
Okay.
go back home. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, that's the advantage of living in a multicultural society. You eat a bit
Yes.
of this, a bit of this, a bit of that, and then life goes on. Okay. Let's share any experience you want to share. And remember, more importantly, what did you learn from that experience?
Yes, of course. So I guess one experience I want to definitely share is how I learned to cope with the different cultures, both in America and Singapore.
Okay.
So, because every 2 years, because my dad was in the Singapore Air Force, every 2 years we would move back and forth. And
Yeah.
so I think one of the things that I had to really learn really quick as a child was adaptability.
Okay.
Learning how to adapt on the move, learning how to adapt in the moment, especially when it came to my studies and education, because both Singapore and America have two different education
Systems.
systems
Okay.
and education levels. So, and the thing about Singapore is they are very, very, very advanced in their schooling. And so, whenever I would move back and forth, whenever I would come back to America, I would be very advanced. I'd be doing very, very well.
Yeah.
But then whenever I'd move back to Singapore,
You go back.
I'd go way back, and then I'll have to work extra hard to catch up to where they are at, and then I'd come back here, and then I'd be even ahead. So because of those differences, I had to really learn to adapt and push through, really learn how to build my mental strength and
Yeah.
not to give up. Um, but then ultimately, I think right around the time when I was starting high school, I was just done. I didn't want to go back and forth anymore. I
You
could
wanted
see
some
how
stability.
I wanted some stability, and so I decided to actually stay back in America and pursue my high school education.
Okay, how was school like in Singapore? Is there anything unique now that you know the American system? Is there any kind of
Yes.
uniqueness? Yeah.
So in Singapore, your education determines your future.
Okay.
So it's not like in America where it's like, hey, you can just finish high school and if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can be an entrepreneur. If you want to be if you want to be an astronaut, you can be an astronaut. If the possibilities in America are so endless because of um the different variety of
Yeah, the
opportunities.
society, I mean,
Yes. But
okay.
in Singapore, it's very very like their tracks, their tracks. And, in Singapore, when you're around 12 years old, when you're, I guess, primary six or in the sixth grade, you have to do a test called a PSLE. And if you
Hmm.
do not do well on that test basically determines your life. Whether
No,
you go the
no, you are not
express route.
serious.
No, I'm serious. I
Oh,
know kids who are very smart, who are very bright, but because they didn't do well on that test, they put them in the normal stream. They put them in they put them in different streams after that test based off how you do. And because they put them on the certain path because of the results of their
okay.
education, they were only able to do so much when they got older. There was only so many opportunities that they could get into in the corporate world or in the
Hmm.
working environment. Um, and so that's why, like, in Singapore, you're taught at a very young age to value education,
Okay.
and it can almost become an idol in many of the families and in the children's lives to the point where they start neglecting their mental health. They start
Oh,
neglecting their own,
okay.
some of them, they study, study, study all day, but they forget to eat. They're constantly stressed. Their hair is dropping out. Like, their kids who are
You
11,
are
10
not,
years old, they
wow.
already have gray hair
Oh,
because their parents are like, you must do well, you must do well. But
so
then in
that's
America,
the downside of that kind of education.
that's the downside is the pressure and the stress, but you do get a fantastic education. You do get what you pay for, and you will definitely be ahead of the curve if you actually pursue it and do well. Where else compared to America, it's a little bit more laid back over here,
Yeah.
um, and they pace you very well, but because they try to cater to everybody, they kind of also downplay and it's kind of also the education system I would say here is kind of washed out.
Okay.
Um,
Diluted, a little bit
Diluted,
diluted.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
All
because
right.
they want to cater to everybody,
Everybody.
whether
Okay.
whether you are a slow learner or you're a fast learner, they want to make sure that the system is good for everyone.
But in
Um,
Singapore, everybody's on the fast lane.
Everybody's on the fast lane, so if you don't catch up, then
That's it.
you're that's it, yes. Um, and so yeah, so both education systems have their good and their bad. Um, but I'm thankful that I got to experience both. I
Yeah.
definitely got to benefit both. I got to learn how to, I learned how to pace myself without stressing myself out through the American system, but I also learned how to work hard and, pursue my education with full force in Singapore.
Okay.
Um, so when it came to my studies in high school, I was able to use both my experiences and do really well.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the essence of this, forum. We're not saying this is right or this is wrong. It's just a matter of the culture of the people. And then more
Yes.
importantly, what did you gain from it?
Yes,
Okay, so
yes.
if anybody is watching this and you're planning to go to or send your child to Singapore, you now you know what it means. There are
Yes.
no shortcuts. You just have to be tough, and probably that's why Singapore it took its very few years to just skyrocket, develop. In
Yes.
all dimensions. Actually, so many of the corporate headquarters, global
Yes.
corporate, are located in Singapore. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Um, yeah, Singapore over the past few years has just boomed.
Yeah.
And you're right, many people are moving there. The Singapore government is, trying to open up its borders to pretty much everyone, to bring in more business, to bring in more flow of money,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's definitely something that I've noticed. In fact, in Singapore, it's very, I would say, even among the population in Singapore, it's very like when I went back to Singapore pretty recently last year, I
Yeah.
was surprised by the amount of immigrants that were there. I was like surprised because growing up, I grown up with many Singaporeans, but then now I'm meeting people from India and I'm meeting people from China, I'm meeting people
Okay.
from Thailand. People just coming in because of the job opportunities and the opportunities across the different industries that we have there, and I was very surprised to find that there were very few Singaporeans who were originally from there.
Okay. So
Yes.
so it's like when you're in Singapore, you can proudly say we are the world. Everybody's there.
Yes, yes. Very diverse,
Right.
very, very, very diverse.
It's amazing that the world we live in today, too many countries are shutting their doors to foreigners, to visitors. But now Singapore is the opposite. If you have something to contribute, you're most welcome. And then society is moving on. Okay.
Yes.
That's an outstanding thing. Any other form of experience outside education that you want to share?
About Singapore.
Like, how is growing up, for instance? I know that
Yeah.
it's primary, but the kind of freedom, let me call it freedom, that you experience in the United States, how will that measure with what you experienced, in Singapore
Well,
growing up?
yeah, I mean in America it's a very definitely a lot more liberal in a sense.
Yeah,
Um, that yes, there are rules and regulations here, but there's definitely a lot more freedom to do and choose what you want. But in Singapore, they're very strict, and which is why they thrive.
Yeah.
They have a very interesting government system. It's an authoritarian system. So they have both, a prime minister and a parliament, but then they also have a president as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so, growing up, because of the strict laws and rules that they have there, I felt very, very safe. It's a very, very safe environment.
Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
walk, you can wake up at 4 a.m. and if you want to go for a run or if you want to go eat food at some local hawker center, you can just do that without fearing or, without wondering if you're gonna be safe or not.
Right. Actually, the crime rate is almost zero.
No, it's yeah. I mean, people are just scared to do stuff there because of the number one, the laws and the fines, but number two, the punishment, right? The capital
Okay.
punishment in Singapore is caning. So
Uh-huh.
yes, and it's not and it's caning on your bare bottom
Right.
with a long bamboo pole.
Yeah.
Um and so if you're found with, like for example, some of the rules there include, chewing gum being illegal.
Right.
Um,
Because
and
Singapore is clean.
very
I
clean.
there is, in fact, there are very few countries that will compete with them when it comes to cleanliness.
Yes.
You can sit anywhere on the streets and eat your food. It's so, I mean, I was amazed.
Yes,
That
it's very,
it's
very
not,
clean.
yeah, very, very clean, you know. So has that translated into your own personal life? How you call yourself a very neat, tidy, clean guy?
Yes, because also one thing about if you are from Singapore, when you are 18 or 19 after you're done with high school, you must go serve the military in Singapore.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I did. After high school, I graduated in 2019. I
Yes.
moved back to Singapore and finished 2 years of my military service as a Army service medic. So
2 years.
2 years mandatory service, yes.
Okay.
Um, so
Does
while all my friends went to college and were partying and doing all kinds of stuff in college, I was in Singapore during COVID as a medic, which is the worst time to be a medic.
oh,
But I learned a lot. I got to learn about a lot of life saving
yeah.
skills. I really learned to be very disciplined. Um,
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask. How is that
yes.
discipline? How is it? How is it?
So yes, because of my personal experience
Yes,
living in Singapore, I definitely learned about discipline, um, compared to most
especially in the
people.
army.
Yes, especially in the army.
Yeah.
But even in the schools, even in the schools, they teach about discipline and
Oh,
respect.
okay.
There's a way that you have to greet your teacher. There's a lot of respect and honor in the Singapore system itself. you know,
Hmm.
Especially, compared to the Western culture. In Eastern culture, we are very respectful for our elders.
Yes.
Um, you know, but compared to America, it was a lot more laid back. Even when I came here, whenever I go back and forth, even I would question my friends like, yo, is that how you speak to your parents like that? Is it how you talk to your elders, to your teachers, to your leaders, to your boss? Like, that was very shocking to me. I was like, wow. But obviously being in the South, even in the South, they have their own way of mannerisms, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am.
Okay.
um so it was very interesting to see, different cultures and the way they respect and honor each other.
Oh, well, that's very brilliant. And for somebody like you had the best of both worlds. Is that a nice way to put it?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. And then whatever you learned that time still guides the way you live your life. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, I definitely have carried a lot of those values growing
Yeah.
up um into my personal life now. And it's back then I despised it, but now I look back and I'm like, thank you, God. Like, thank God I actually carried some of those things that are aiding me and helping me in my journey of life. Um,
Well, I hope whoever that is watching can know that discipline is very important. Having a
yes.
focus is also very important, but it's also important for you in this system to be at liberty to explore. so that it is not just discipline, discipline, discipline all the time. You need a more rounded life.
Hmm.
You incorporated Singapore and American values. Sky is the limit. Is there any
Yes.
one thing, one takeaway you want our viewers to go with in this separate? Anything, just rounding it up. Summary.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I would just say, to anyone who is interested about learning about different cultures, traveling the world, based off what you've heard, um, you know, be open-minded. I would just
Okay.
say, do not be afraid to try different things that are outside of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to try different type of foods outside of your culture. Don't be afraid to, check out different, environments, do different activities that are outside of your comfort zone because you just never know what kind of world you may open up yourself to, and you never know of the opportunities that can come with it.
Well said. The only thing I want to add is anybody watching this program, you still want to get in touch with me, crossculturalexperiences at gmail.com, and then we can start talking. Hey, man, young man, this is a very exciting story, and probably we should do it again and explore other areas that you have not talked about today.
Absolutely, I would love to.
Thank you very much. How do you say thank you in Singaporean language? Whichever.
I mean, so in Singapore, we just say thank you.
Okay.
But in my native language, which is Tamil, we say Nandri.
Nandri.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I want to really say that I appreciate your time. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then. Bye for now.
Bye.